Well, the opening session started on Thursday and it was kicked off with the Mardi Gras parade. We were in New Orleans. We were inside where it was cool, not outside in the 100-degree heat. But we had a Mardi Gras parade in there, and it was complete with the beads and everything. So it was pretty fun to see that. The little choo-choo train and the tall-legged guys and everything were in there. So that was pretty fun. Also, we got to be entertained during the opening session by something called the Smoking Jazz Club, which we learned later was a jazz group that plays on the street, and some people in Kiwanis had heard them, and so they asked them to come, and they danced and sang at the opening session as well. Then Sean and, is it Leanne or Leah Toohey? Leanne Toohey. If you know the movie The Blind Side, about the football player, the African-American football player, and the white family that adopted him, well, these were the Tooheys. These were the real people, not, you know, the ones from the movie. And so they were the speakers on that day, and they did a really good job of talking about what went on in their life and how they had contributed to this young man's success and how he had contributed to their success, and tying that into the missions of Kiwanis. So that was they were really interesting and entertaining as well. Then we had the Eliminate recognition, where we were all on the stage. Milford and Lenore were there too for their personal contributions. So that was fun as well. The annual meeting was the next day, and at the annual meeting we had the election of officers for next year. And just briefly to identify those, Thomas DiGiulio will be the president next year, and he's from New York, and he's a higher education attorney. Gunter Glasser will be the president-elect. He's from Austria, and he's an executive board member of a building and insulating material company. John Button was elected vice president on the first ballot, which we were all really amazed because there were 4 or 5 candidates and a lot of campaigning and those kinds of things going on, but he won on the first ballot, and he's from Canada, and he's a retired family physician. Then the executive board individuals that were elected, Kevin Dean was elected for a 1-year term. Because of the death of sitting executive board member or trustee, they had to fill that 1-year term out, and so Kevin Dean was elected to do that. He is from West Virginia and works for United Health Group. Dennis Oliver was also elected to a 3-year term. He's from Louisiana, and I'm sorry, he's from Mississippi, and he's a retired sales professional. Jim Rockford was elected for a 3-year term. He's from Peoria, Illinois, and he's a lawyer, an attorney. And then Elizabeth Teza was elected to a 3-year term. She's from Sullivan's Island, USA. That's in the Carolinas district. And she has a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting and works at Charleston Southern University. So those were the elections that took place there. There were a number of amendments to the Constitution. Amendments 1 through 12 all passed, and those were generally housekeeping kinds of amendments, either to make the things that were already happening kind of okay under the bylaws, but to kind of get everything up to the direction in which Kiwanis is going. Number 13 was the dues increase. That was to raise the dues from $42 to $57, or a $15 increase. That was referred back to the Finance Committee. A motion was immediately made to refer that back to the Finance Committee. That did pass. There was some additional requests with that, which will go back to the Finance Committee as recommendations, but they won't be bound by them. But one of those was to only pay for the expenses of the past international presidents to come to the Kiwanis International Convention for 3 years following their term as president. And currently they get all their expenses paid for life. So that was one of the things that was suggested in there. I'm sure that the committee will look at that. There will be a report back from this committee at the 2013 convention. And then I'm sure there will be some kind of amendment action, again, related to that. Amendment 14 was an amendment that would continue the dues freeze for tiers A, B, and C. And these are for the underdeveloped countries. They don't pay as much in dues. There was a freeze, but that freeze was set to expire in September, so their dues would have increased if some of them had moved in tiers. And so that freeze was continued as well with the others, continual study of the dues increase. Number 15 was to add a new Kiwanis International objective to the current 6, and these are the 6 that have been the objectives of Kiwanis for a long time. And that objective was to encourage, support, and promote an equal opportunity to serve clause. The majority of the people felt that was already covered in the 6 that we had, and that it was kind of dangerous maybe to add a 7th and then an 8th and then a 9th, because these are supposed to be the guiding principles, like founding beliefs, and so that did not pass. Number 16 was to form a new standing committee of past international trustees. They would have had to pay their own expenses, but that did not pass. It failed. What they wanted to do was they were seeking to have a way to continue to be plugged into what's happening at the international level by being an advisory group and paying their own ways to the meetings. And so the majority of the delegates didn't feel that that was necessary. Number 17 was to have the number of individuals required to start a new club to be 15, and to have that number set by the House of Delegates, not by the International Board. And that did pass. Currently, the number is 15, but the current practice is the International Board has control over that. They can move that number whenever they want. And so this, the passing of this amendment gave that power to change that number to the House of Delegates, not the International Board. So I think the people who supported this felt that that was a good number and that it would be more likely to stay at that level if it were by a vote of the House of Delegates. The closing session, there was, they announced the election results. James Carville and Mary Martin were the speakers, and they talked about their work in the New Orleans area since the hurricane and all the work they've done, because he's from there, and all the work they've done in the community to try to get it back to where it was before. And then the president-designate gave his acceptance or his message or theme for the next year. Future convention dates: 2013 in Vancouver, British Columbia on June 27th through 30th. 2014 is in Macau, China on June 26th through 29th. And then the 2015, or the 100th year anniversary, will be in Indianapolis, Indiana, June 25th through the 28th. So you can put those things on your calendar, I guess, if you'd like. The sessions that I went to that I want to talk about just briefly, I went to a session on the 100th anniversary, and I thought that probably this session was going to give us some information on the 100th anniversary celebration and what we might be thinking about or doing. And actually, it was the committee, the International Committee, who wanted input from the delegates and the attendees at the convention to that. So they talked a little bit about it, and then we got into kind of brainstorming groups, and we gave them some ideas about things that would be important for International Kiwanis to provide us, local clubs, as we got ready to that. But one of the things, of course, will be on the agenda will be to celebrate the conclusion of Eliminate, because that's when it's supposedly going to be done if we can stay on track with our raising the money for that. That they suggested that we use it as a marketing tool for Kiwanis, so that as we work between now and the 100th anniversary, that we use that celebration to our advantage as a marketing tool. And so some of the things that we talked about were around that, like International Kiwanis needs to provide tools for clubs and districts to use. They should make merchandise available related to that we can use. They should put together some public service announcements that we could use with local television and radio stations. So those kinds of things. Ways in which we can enhance membership, to build the Kiwanis brand. One of the things that they suggested that we start thinking about to do those things is about celebrate Kiwanis history events. So thinking about the history of our organization and putting some things together either locally or as a district to do that. So that was kind of an interesting one to attend, and Kathie and I both kind of did that. Then I went to one on enhancing our club meetings. And in this one, 3 different clubs reported on projects that they are doing and that they are excited about in their club. And really, I think the main focus of this was whatever the things are that you do, it should be something that you're excited about doing and that your club's excited about doing, because that will enhance the planning and that will enhance things that are happening at those meetings. But Alabama works with the National Fair in that state. So the Alabama Kiwanis Club does that, and it raises money for their club and for a lot of community activities. In Australia they do a car show, and it's a historic Ford's car show, and it's gone from a couple hundred vehicles to 650 vehicles, and they're planning on that even growing more. So this is a really community affair, and so not only is Kiwanis involved in this, but all the community is. And Florida does a festival to unite the Cuban community, because there are a lot of people with Cuban ancestry and descent there, and so they do some things down there, and it's like a huge block party. They said it's now 23 blocks long. They have 17 stages and 8 events, and it goes for 10 days. So it's a really pretty big event. But these all started small, and you know, the thing I think that they said was that the way they got people excited about this was to picking things that there was buy-in for as members of their club. Then they also said that another way you can enhance your meetings is to provide support and appreciation for the members that are involved. Now, I think we do a pretty good job of that now, but they're, you know, recognizing people with certificates and awards, not only our club members, but sometimes that would be support to the community, to vendors in the community that help us. For example, we have people who donate to help support the pancake feed or the waffle feed, and so, you know, making sure that we recognize them and thank them and so forth for that. So that was one of the things that they talked about there. Another one I went to was called They Joined, So Now Let's Keep Them. And this presenter provided us with a handout that has 10 simple ways to retain your members. And I'll just kind of hit those and highlight those. Show that you care. So do things that show that you care about your members. Give them a hand. So help them out with projects they're involved in, that kind of thing. Mentor new members. Help them to understand what Kiwanis is about. Get on the information highway. So this is talking about using electronic communication, and I think that's one of the things that that Scott has is kind of experimenting now with the taping of these presentations. Show you can grow. So, you know, have an active membership committee. Engage new members as soon as you can in the activities of the club. Look at your current service projects and look at new service projects, and you know, make sure that you're doing things that are continuing to make a difference, that kind of thing. Be dynamic. Match your skills with your needs, with your projects, with your jobs. So think about the skills that you have as a club and try to match those up with the things that you do. Always leave them wanting more. You know, the question was, if you could change something, what would it be? To involve everyone, as many as you can, in planning and in carrying out the activities. Don't burn the candle at both ends. This is, don't do too many things. So, you know, make sure that the things that you do, you're doing well. Why can't we be friends? Let the volunteers get to know each other. Have time at meetings and projects for them to interact socially or informally. Have name bags, introduce new members. We do a lot of those things already. Accentuate the positive. Ensure that all members are enjoying the benefits of membership, the fun, the fellowship. Make sure you keep people involved. This is where they're talking about, people that don't attend all the time. You maybe keep communicating with them in some form, letting them know the things that you're doing and accentuating the positive things that you're doing, hopefully to bring them back in. And when you're smiling, it was, make the things that you do fun, so that people are interested and are happy to do that. Another one I went to was enhancing club meetings, and this one talked about using available resources like the Kiwanis website and that thing for your meetings. But primarily this woman talked about meeting the needs of your members at the meeting, and she said that we all have basic needs. We have a need for certainty, like what's going to happen. We need to have a need for variety, some new stuff, shaking it up, not always doing the same thing. We have a need for significance. We need to feel rewarded and noted for our efforts. We need to have love and connection, feel close and connected to others. We need growth, to grow, expand, take on new challenges. We need to be able to contribute, to make a difference, to make the world a better place. Now she said that everybody has at least one need in the first four: certainty, variety, significance, love, and connection. It's our job as leaders in our club to figure out what our members' needs are and to make sure at meetings that we're meeting those. And some people, not everybody, but some people, probably most Kiwanians, have the need for growth and contribution. So those are some things that she talked about, and then she went through things that we could do to meet those particular needs. I'm not going to talk about those now because that would take too much time. Kathie wouldn't get to talk. And then the last one that I went to was called Creating a Positive Image, and it was put on by the same person that did the one on enhancing your club meetings. She was a very good speaker. She's from Kansas and is running for lieutenant governor, or governor from that district, I think, this next year. But she talked a lot about Don Clifton's book, How to Fill Your Bucket, or How to Keep Your Bucket Full, or Is Your Bucket Full, or I don't remember exactly the name of the book. I've read the book. I'm sure a lot of us have probably read the book. But basically the premise of this is that we have control of how or what our kind of image we portray and we create by the things that we do and the choices that we make. And so she talked about making sure that you help people who aren't having a really good day fill their bucket by contributing to that, by supporting them, by giving them feedback, by giving them praise and those kinds of things that they needed. And that when you need it yourself, you need to go to those places where you need that. But not only does that work for an individual, but that works for your club too, because if all of us, our buckets are empty, our club doesn't have a very good image. If all of our buckets are full most of the time, we're feeling good about life and ourselves and our club, that will make a difference. One of the things she suggested is that everyone have what she called a 1-minute Kiwanis speech. And that is like your customer service speech. So it's like, what is Kiwanis, or what does Kiwanis mean to you? That kind of thing. That everybody should have one and be able to shoot that off when someone asks you about that, because that's one of the ways that you create a positive image for your club.
Okay, first of all, I should just say that Arlyn and I have attended a lot of, well, not a lot, but we've attended a fair amount of national conventions, a lot of education things and stuff. We've gone to a lot of conferences, and we were both very impressed with Kiwanis International Convention. It's very well organized. I think they do an excellent job of having a lot of different sessions for different people. Everybody can find something. It's a really good collegial sort of place to get together, and I think that everyone feels. I was very impressed with the way that it was organized. We were very fortunate in that our hotel was really close to the convention center, so we were able to walk, which was nice, because I think the buses thing gets a little complicated. We've done that though before, where we've been on conventions where you get on the bus and then but this one was a lot easier for us. I also think it's kudos to Kiwanis for sticking with New Orleans, because there are a lot of people, as we know, after the hurricane, who did pull out meetings and things like that. And I think they were the whole city was very quick to say thank you to us for supporting them. And so I do think that Kiwanis does have a very visual presence when they go to places like that, and so it's to our benefit, and I think also to our credit for doing that. I also felt that the 25-year reunion, or the 25-year celebration for the women in Kiwanis, was well done. It wasn't over the top. They were just, they paid tribute to it, they celebrated it, they said some good things, but it wasn't like it was the only focus or anything. So that was cool. And they had this little brochure, and they had a little booth and stuff, and so that was cool. And it wasn't like they were they didn't overdo it, which I thought was cool. So some of the sessions I went to, first of all, I did go to a Women in Philanthropy. Lenora went with me to that one, and Susan too. What I think is important to remember is that when we talk about the Illumina Project and some of the other things that we do, men and women often see the opportunity for contributing in different ways. And there really is a lot of surveys and a lot of studies out there on this, and so I thought it was important to go to the Women in Philanthropy one, because when you ask women to give money, they respond very differently than asking men to give money, which is, it's something that's really very proven, but it was interesting to hear them talk about it. Women will tend to analyze and really think through giving their money a lot more than men, which is interesting, because you kind of think a lot of times there's a stereotype women want to shop and they want to spend money and everything, but the truth is that women part with their money when it comes to philanthropy in a totally different way. Women tend to hold on to their money a lot tighter. Mostly they think that it has to do with the fact that they see it as taking away from their family's resources, and so giving their money is something they're not as willing to do. This is especially true for women in politics. If you ever do any studies with that, women do not contribute to political campaigns like men do. And part of the reason is because they see it as taking from their family's resources, and they're not willing to do that. Also, traditionally, it has to do with the fact that women make a lot less than men lots of times, and so they don't have as much to give. But what they did say in this Women in Philanthropy, which is important for us to think about as we continue with, our things that we're asking women to give money to, and that is that women are really very willing to give money if they see that they have an investment in it, or that it's something that really touches them emotionally. So the Illuminate Project obviously is something that women feel strongly about. And the other thing that's interesting about women and whether or not they're willing to give money has to do with their investment in it. So if, for example, let me just say that the Mother's Day Zeller is absolutely the total package, okay? Because if you stop and think about it, not only are you celebrating motherhood, but a lot of people are giving in the name of their mothers or in the names of people that they care about. It's also a way for them to have a visual representation, which ironically, women really want something to show for it. So the whole Women's Zeller, the Mother's Day thing is a really smart thing, because they have a visual representation of their contribution. So, it's a good move there. And I do think that was an interesting one to participate in, and something that it sort of spoke to me. I went to one on marketing your club. And bless his heart, there was a guy from Italy whose name was Francesco Valenti. Guy, lots of energy. And he was talking about you can get out there and market your club. Well, he didn't really have any ideas that were all that different than what we do. You know, we have a really good connection with the newspaper, the Neighborhood Extra. We do a lot of things that were talked about in this particular session. He did, however, mention that how about if we all just went for Facebook? Okay, so how many of you have a Facebook account? Okay, how many of you put things about Kiwanis on your Facebook account? Okay, so what he was saying is if you have a Facebook account and it's time for the waffle feed, or if you want to talk about the Eliminate Project or whatever, why not put that on your Facebook account? It's not like people, you know, you're not begging people, but on the other hand, you could tell them about it, and that would be a marketing tool. So that was kind of interesting. He also did talk about the idea that there are some things that other clubs are doing in the marketing in social media, and I think that just has to be whatever everybody's club really feels comfortable with. Scott's idea of doing the videotaping of the sessions was really a great idea, and there are lots of things like that. He also mentioned, and I don't know if I knew this, that Kiwanis International has a lot of little video things on YouTube, and so if you want to, you can link to those. And so if you have a Facebook account, you can link to something on Facebook and do the YouTube thing if you want, which is, you know, that's an idea. For those of you that are techno-savvy, that would not be me. But if it is for you, that would be great. I also went to one on how to get sponsorships, corporate sponsorships for your meeting. And okay, I just want to say on this one, it was not what it was advertised to be. Because when I got there, there were three guys talking about some hoo-ha projects that they have, one of which sounded like it was a state fair, for Pete's sake. And it was mostly just those people aggrandizing about their fabulous projects, and it didn't really have anything to do with corporate sponsorships. So I took a whole lot of notes of things that I intended to do the next week. Okay.
First you get it done.
The notes on that one, I don't have a whole lot on them, because I have a whole lot of stuff that I realized as I was going through my notes. I really notes to myself. Okay. So that was kind of a bust on that one. But I did also go to one that was called Think Outside the Box, and I really liked that one. And in fact, some of these are ideas that when Arlyn gets to be president, we're going to think about doing. So I'm not telling you the whole thing because some of this is kind of a surprise. But there are things that you can do that would kind of spice it up a little bit. And so, like for example, they mentioned that there are some people in your club who just really can't come to Wednesday clubs. And so if that happens, what could you do? And one idea was, why not once a month you just have a dinner and invite everybody to go to a certain restaurant or whatever, and anybody who wants to can. So like if Lauren doesn't get to come all the time or whatever, you could just have dinner in an evening sometime and have everybody come to a certain place and just have a dinner meeting once a month. And it doesn't have to necessarily be on a regular basis, but you could do that if you wanted to, and it would be a great way for people who can't always come at noon and maybe shake it up a little bit, which, you know, could be fun. And you never know, we could come up with a kind of a fun venue.
She's thinking wine.
Then they talked about planning some kind of social events, and that when we plan social events, instead of just saying, okay, now we're going to have a social event and one committee plans it, that what you do is you divide it up and say, okay, you group over here decide where we're going to go. That's all you have to do. And this group over here, you decide what we're going to eat, and that's all you do. And this group over here, you decide what the activities are going to be, but don't tell everybody else. Okay? So then, to get it started, the group who decides where it's going to be says, okay, show up at this place at this time. And then when you get there, you find out what you're going to eat, and then you find out what you're going to do, and stuff like that. So that'll be kind of fun. And then, like I said, there's a couple of other things that I learned at that one that I'm keeping to myself. Because Arlyn's going to need all the tricks he can get.
She's not going to keep them to herself.
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, so there were some that I really liked, though. Okay, so the last one I have to tell you is just a hoot, because there was in the book it said that Jenny Craig was speaking, and she was going to speak on 10 simple steps to make a positive impact. And I thought, well, this is going to be interesting, right? Okay, so I went to see Jenny Craig doing 10 simple steps to make a positive impact. What's the first thing you think of? She's going to tell you to lose weight, right? Okay. So I get there, the room is packed. Okay, room is packed. And I'm thinking, well, obviously everybody thought the same thing as me. Get there, it is not Jenny Craig, it's Jenny Craig. Because her name was Jenny Craig, okay, but she's not the Jenny Craig. This woman has a gold mine, because anywhere she goes, everybody's going to go to wherever she is thinking, woohoo, Jenny Craig, right? But I'll tell you what, she was not only more fun and interesting than Jenny Craig, she probably was cuter too. And she was wonderful. I mean, wonderful. She was so interesting. So I thought maybe, since we have a minute or two, we would do a little, I'll give you a little visual aid of something that Jenny Craig taught me at this deal. Okay, so I need a volunteer, John. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you what your name is. Okay? And you're going to say it 3 times. You're going to say, my name is... All right, so wait a minute. You have to stand up here. Oh, wait a minute. Can Scott see this? Here, I'll go this way. Okay, so stand like this. Put your arms out like this. Okay, so when I say, what's your name, 3 times you're going to say what your name is. And don't let me push down your arm. Okay, ready? Okay, what's your name?
My name is John. My name is John. My name is John.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you what your name is, and you say my name is, but something else.
Arms out again?
Yes. Okay, ready? Go.
My name is Frank. My name is Frank. My name is Frank.
Did you notice how I could push his arm down? Okay, this is called the human lie detector. Okay, thank you.
Hey, so we're ready.
Now, I'll tell you what. Had I known that when I was teaching high school, wow, that would have been great. Can you imagine? Okay, I'm going to ask you this question. Don't let me put your arm, push your arms down. If you lie, you can't do this as much, right? Because why? Because you're thinking so hard about trying to lie that you get off balance. Man, that or raising kids, one of the two. Susan, remember that. Okay, so anyway, Jenny Craig said that out of the 50 to 60,000 thoughts that we have every single day, guess how many of them are exactly the same as the ones you had yesterday?
Probably not very many.
Of the 50 to 60,000 thoughts that you have in a day, how many are exactly the same as the ones you had yesterday?
None.
0.
0.
95 to 98%. What?
Yes, this is what I saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that astounding? Yeah. Anyway, this woman had a master's in neuroscience, and she was so smart. And really, basically, what she said is, that everything in your whole life has to do with this, right? And the basic message that she gave me, because now I'm going to really run out of time, is that whether you think you can or whether you think you can, you're right.
You're right.
Yeah, that's actually attributed to Henry Ford. But it is really interesting, and that is that thinking that you can do something will really help you to be able to do it. And so her message for Kiwanis was, and she actually is a Kiwanian, that the whole idea is believing in something and really being being willing to stick to it is going to make all the difference in the world. And whether you think you can or you can't, it all has to do with, whatever. And the toughest thing for all of us is to change our neural pathways to thinking different thoughts and making ourselves believe in different things. And anyway, she was really amazing and she was fabulous. And I think there's something to be said about Kiwanis International doing workshops like that, because it does give people some personal growth. I think it's cool. Anyway, so I will stop talking. There was a lot of other things. But I do really want to say that I thought it was very good. It was very well done, and it was very interesting.